Hello, everyone, and good morning. My name is Mark Farzy. This is the Farzy Show, presented by Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. That was not the way you wanted to see a 10-game road trip start out by your Philadelphia Phillies. We'll get into that conversation today as Nola, Castellanos, Soto really let you down yesterday in a game that, even with Nola's struggles, was winnable. We'll get into that conversation. Ky Carlin stops by the program to talk about the 76ers and their head coaching search. Basically, the goal of that conversation is a lot of people are going to be going away. A lot of people are going to be going down the shore. A lot of people are going to be hosting a lot of other people, like myself will be hosting a lot of other people. And you guys know I love that because I love to cook. And I'm going to be making a lot of food. Oh, man, I'm going to make the nice sausage and peppers. I'm going to make the meatballs. I'm going to make a nice carbonara. Oh, my goodness gracious, weekend of cooking for me. And then on Tuesday, we're all going to get back to work, and we're all going to probably, do everything. And I want to know what kind of world we're going to be living in when it comes to the 10-9-8 76ers come Tuesday. Is it going to be the exact same world? Are the Celtics finally going to be eliminated for the playoffs? I just want to know all this stuff. So I talked to Ky Carlin of USA Today, Sixers Wire, and he'll fill us in as best he can when it comes to how our world could be changing by Tuesday. And if not by Tuesday, in the not-too-distant future, what does the 76ers crystal ball look like right now? That's the conversation we're going to have today, folks. So let's start it off. Oh, boy. I know I've used the phrase with you guys before, May mad. I am May mad at the Phillies. What a difference a day makes. Throw that out the window. I'm just pissed off at the Phillies. And here's where I'm at. Aaron Nola has been so unbelievably disappointing ever since the World Series. Had a great season last year, had a great year, and then goes to the World Series and, for lack of a better term, wets the bed. So this year, I'm expecting Aaron Nola bounce back, or I at least want Aaron Nola to bounce back. And they have the whole contract dispute through the offseason, and once the season starts, I don't want to negotiate anything. I'm sure the Phillies right now, while Nola's struggling, is just like, can we please just get this some kind of deal done where we get this crazy kind of discount, and then all of a sudden you'd be better, and we end up getting the steal of the century? I don't think that's going to happen. But for both sides, it doesn't seem to be working out too well. So Nola starts out the season struggling, continued to struggle. And then over his last couple of starts, at least was giving you 6 innings. And you're like, all right, 6 innings here, 6 1/3, 7 innings. Hey, all right, this is great. Things are starting to look better for Aaron Nola. Has he figured it out? And just when we ask that question, what happens? What's the bet? And last night was another example of that. And I guess the number one reason is the 2 words, Austin Riley. The life wasn't back on his fastball yesterday. His breaking pitches didn't have that snap to him that we're used to seeing. The 2-seam fastball kind of just stayed flat into the zone as it has when he's struggled, really throughout his career, if you can't get that going for him. And last night, just everything that he was able to throw at the Braves, they were able to figure it out. There was one inning, and it was that 3rd inning, where he got himself into some trouble, and Acuna had that leadoff double. Then he gave up the walk to Olsen. And then Riley, Murphy and Rosario, strikes him out. So for that was great. I thought, all right, it's a 3-3 ball game. You know what? 7 innings, 3 runs. That's not a bad start. It's a really good start. Maybe you'll get that out of Nola tonight. 98 pitches to get through 6 innings of work, 5 runs across the plate on his dime. Where's the Aaron Nola even last year? Not the Aaron Nola, but 4 years ago, finished in the top 3 in the Cy Young voting. I'm not even looking for that Nola at this point. Just even the top 5 last year. Just where's that guy? I'll take top 5. Nowhere to be found. Wheeler, Nola, Suarez being injured. I was really excited to see what this pitching rotation would do this year. And boy, have they let us down just entirely. One of the reasons I thought this would be a 95 to 100 win team, I didn't think they'd win 100 wins, but I think 98 was the highest I went. The reason I was so confident was because Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, that's a good 1-2-3 punch. And then Taijuan Walker to round it out. Andrew Painter, let's see what you got, baby. We got to be a little bit patient there. But last night, I know, and again, this is the kind of ranking system I'm at as far as, and I'm going to go in order here. I know a lot of people are pissed off at Aaron Nola, and rightfully so, because he has just been very disappointing, and the tease of thinking that he's about to figure it out, that, and then disappointing you again last night even more, that's an even bigger letdown. The fact that the Phillies won in the way they did in the previous game, in their last home game before this 10-game road trip, kind of gets your hopes up a little bit more. Maybe Trey Turner's finally figured it out. No, Mama Turner's still booing. But in last night's ball game, Phillies fall 8-5 after really battling, being down, coming back, being down, coming back a number of times. We'll go through the play-by-play in a second, but Nola last night in total, I mentioned 8 innings, 5 earned runs. He issued 2 walks, struck out 7, and he gave up 3 home runs, 2 of which were to Austin Riley. The other was Marcell Ozuna at the end of the bat, just going with the pitch to the opposite field. But 6 innings, 5 runs, 8 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. All the runs were earned. I know Aaron Nola is on everyone's. He occupies the top spot in everyone's poop list. Okay, not mine. You know who's number one? I'm going to tell you who's number one right now. The guy I look at more than anything, and even Soto, who was terrible, absolutely terrible. I heard Todd Zalecki bring up the point post game when he was talking to Rob Thompson. He said Soto seems like a guy that could be doing really well, and then all of a sudden makes one mistake or lets one guy on base, and then everything starts to unravel. That was the word he used. And I kind of had that sense because Soto comes out there in the 8th inning, and at least from my standpoint, I mean, I have had a lot of confidence in Soto taking over for the Phillies and coming in and kind of relieving everybody, coming in and just being, for the most part, dominant. Early in the season, his first couple of outings, bad. And then he had about a month straight of just being dominant. And then over the last couple of outings, a little shaky. But last night, he strikes out Pilar. And then Albies gets the single. Ozuna gets a double. You have second and third with 1 out. Arcia gets walked. And the Phillies say, I think it's time. We need to get him out of there. Hoffman comes in. He gives up the pinch hit. 2-run single to Travis d'Arnaud, former Phillies prospect. And then Acuna gets the single as well. And then Olsen comes up with the sac fly RBI. It goes from 7-5. It goes from 5-5 to 7-5 to 8-5. And that's when Hoffman came in after the Olsen sac fly RBI. And then he was able to get Austin Riley to ground out to the shortstop. But that was an example right there of Gregory Soto coming into a game and Soto not being able to find his way out. He starts off well, getting the strikeout, then single, double, the ground rule double by Ozuna, and then he gives up it allows another walk and then an RBI single. 2-run single, excuse me. Unraveling is a good way to put it when it comes to Gregory Soto. And when he comes into the ball game, I mean, you just have to have that poise as a bullpen arm of things aren't always going to go your way. Things are going to struggle. You're going to walk into situations that aren't good. This one isn't an example of that because he came in and he started out the inning. And then just absolutely perfect way to put it, unraveled in that inning. But again, he's not number one. Who's number one for me is Nick Castellanos. Because here's where I go with blame often after games. I know a lot of people like to pile on. Like Aaron Nola right now, that's piling on. Like at what point do your expectations change? And just say, maybe we get a quality start today. Not maybe we get a Cy Young caliber performance today. No. Maybe we get a quality start today. The unfortunate thing about Aaron Nola's last couple starts here is that what has become the norm is after these starts, we say, hey, you know what? At least he 8 innings. And I know in 2 of his last 3 starts going into last night's game, he goes 6 innings or he goes 7 innings and he allows 2 runs. But then he also has the other performances where he allows like 4 runs, which he's also done in 2 of his last now 4 starts going into last night. And now 3 of his last 5 starts, he's allowed 5 runs, 4 runs, 4 runs. So expectations change as the season goes on. And my expectations have changed for Aaron Nola. So last night's game, yes, I'm disappointed that he didn't pitch better. But my number one spot for blame goes to Nick Castellanos. Because often when I'm looking to assign blame, I look at who didn't do the little things. Not who wasn't dominant. You can look at Trey Turner. He didn't go 4 for 4. He does suck. It's not like that. It's who didn't do the little things. And for me, if you're a young player and you're watching that game last night and you see Nick Castellanos not slide into home, and then later in the ball game, you see Nick Castellanos slide terribly into home, don't play like Nick Castellanos. And I have praised Nick Castellanos. I've given credit where credit is due, and I'm certainly not a hater. I had the biggest man crush on Nick Castellanos when he was coming up with the Tigers, and I was hoping that a guy like Mike Franco would do the same thing for the Phillies and come up with a bullet. You know what I mean? But last night, it's also worth noting that Nick Castellanos at this time last year had a batting average that was 40 points lower. Okay. And I didn't even count up his doubles, but I'm assuming it was nowhere near what he was at, right? What he's at right now. So Nick Castellanos is having himself a nice bounce back season. Power numbers, you would still want to be there as far as home runs. That's great. Because again, as far as hitting the ball in the gap and getting doubles and hitting the ball down the line, he's doing a great job of doing that. But I really don't know how to explain somebody not hustling. And that is one of the most enraging things about watching professional athletes. It's either the bonehead play where you're not thinking, or the what the hell are you doing by not running hard. And when I saw Nick Castellanos in that particular play in the third inning, it's a 3-3 ball game. Here's how the inning went. Bryce Harper led off by flying out to center field. Nick Castellanos comes up with the infield single down the third baseline. Riley did a great job of just getting in front of it, but it could have been a double. It wasn't. Nick Castellanos ends up with the infield single. Kyle Schwarber steps up. He walks. Then JT Realmuto gets hit by a pitch. You now in a 3-3 ball game. In a 3-3 ball game, you now have the bases loaded with one out. And your best hitter with runners in scoring position, your RBI leader is at the plate, and Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm hits a bouncer to Austin Riley at third base. Bases loaded, one out. You're running on contact. You're booking it on contact in the event that there's a play made at your bag. I don't care if you're going first to second. You're thinking that double play could be going around the horn. You're busting it to second base. You're busting it if you're Alec Bohm down the first base line because you know that ball's going to go around the horn. Austin Riley fields the ball. And oddly, I will say, fields the ball, steps on third, and instead of firing to first, he oddly fires home for the 5-2 double play. Now, keep in mind that once he steps on third base, there's no longer a force out at home, so you got to make a play at home. My thought on it, let me just finish this. Castellanos is coming home. He's not running hard. He ducked when the throw went home, which is weird because he should already be in a slide. He doesn't book it home. He doesn't hustle. He ends up getting tagged out at home plate. So the Braves get the, again, 5-2 double play. Here's why I think Austin Riley threw home. And I know, and I'll let you hear it in a second. Rob Thompson was talking about it. He said he didn't understand what was going on in that play. My theory is that Austin Riley is going to his right to make the play, and his momentum was just taking him that way. So instead of stepping on the bag, turning and firing to first across his body and across the field, he decided, let me just go with this out that's right here in front of me. He might have saw that Nick Castellanos wasn't running hard. I doubt it. That's a lot to process in that moment. So he fields the ball. His momentum carries him to third base. He steps on third, fires to home instead of firing across his body, and he gets the out there. That's why I think he went home. Here was the take from Rob Thompson on not just that play, but also the play that came in the seventh inning with Kyle Schwarber's RBI double that should have been a 2-run double. Should have given the Phillies a 6-5 lead. If you saw the play, you know what we're talking about here. Nick Castellanos is on first base in that seventh inning. Kyle Schwarber puts one into the corner, the right field corner, with 2 outs. So Nick Castellanos, again, should be booking it on contact. I don't know what the hell happened here, but the ball goes into the corner. Bryce Harper, who led off or who got a 2-out single, bunt single to start things off with this little rally here. He scores easily. Nick Castellanos is rounding second, rounding third. Now, the throw from Acuna in right field, he had to go to the wall to field it. It looked like he had trouble picking it up. Picks up the baseball, fires to second, okay? He throws to second. That's very important. They then can't get the out at second because Kyle Schwarber beats the throw to second. Then they still notice Nick Castellanos is heading home. I don't know if he took a nap at third base. I don't know if him and Dusty Wathan decided to catch up and just shoot the you-know-what. And he's going home. They fire home, and originally, Nick Castellanos slides and originally is called safe, and the Phillies get a 2-run double from Kyle Schwarber. They're up 6-5. All is right with the world. The Braves then look at it and go, I don't think he ever touched home plate. So they review it. They overturn it. Nick Castellanos' slide was terrible, and he gets tagged out by Murphy there at home plate. It's 5-5 ball game. Now, one thing I do want to say is that Ben Davis during the broadcast, and this is very important because it never got referenced again, and I didn't hear anybody talk about it in postgame. I didn't hear Rob Thompson talk about it. I didn't hear Aaron Nola talk about it. I haven't seen anyone tweet out if Nick Castellanos even spoke after yesterday's game. So Nick Castellanos gets thrown out at home. They review it. Yeah, he's out. Ben Davis during the broadcast said, and I quote, Nick looked a little surprised that Dusty kept waving him. Ben Davis is up there. All right, he's up in the booth. Nick Castellanos is all the way down there, hopefully rounding third base at full bore, which I have my doubts. Well, how do you look surprised? I don't think Ben Davis saw this expression on Nick Castellanos' face. Huh? Me? Go there? For the people on the podcast, I just did a phenomenal facial expression, expressing the idea that I was surprised that I was being sent home. Me? Go home? Like, I don't think that's what Ben Davis is looking down and be like, hey, T-Mac, you see how surprised Nick Castellanos looked? So how do you look surprised? You stop running! And I never saw a replay. We never saw a replay of Nick Castellanos rounding third base. Oftentimes, we get that little shot from bird's eye view of, like, what's going on in the entire field. Didn't get it. So the only way you can really look surprised is if you're running really hard, then you slow down. Oh, damn it, I got to go again. Okay. And I didn't see if that happened or not. Here's Rob Thompson's thoughts on the play in the third inning with the opportunity to score with the bases loaded situation, and what happened in the seventh inning with Nick Castellanos not being safe at home, unfortunately, and what the hell happened on that particular play.
You know, like he did slide on that one, but was he thinking the ball's going to first?
I think everybody in the ballpark thought the ball was going to first. And so when the balls hit that hard, usually the on-deck guy helps the guy at the plate to tell him what to do. There's no time to get there, on that play. But I certainly thought he was going to first base.
Yeah.
Either that or turn traditional double play. But, that's – and balls behind him and,
Right.
So that's tough.
And in the instant replay, would you –
Well, Casty didn't touch the play.
Was that what this?
I think so. I think once he slid, the ground moved his foot, because sometimes it does. I catch a cleat or whatever, and then it just kind of slid past the plate.
What was waiting for that decision like from the dugout?
Well, we had called in, and we knew that it was probably going to be overturned.
All right. Let's just focus on one thing. First, folks, fear not. The ground moved his foot. Okay. That ground, man. Philly's spending all this money on this lineup, and they just, the ground gets them. All right, that's low-hanging fruit. It just sounds dumb, but I understand what he's saying. And he even said, caught a cleat, and you go into the slide and whatever. But bottom line is that it was just terrible. And I I know everyone's focused on that. And if he was out by, I don't know, 3 feet, let's just say, I think then we're focusing more on what the hell was he doing rounding third base. Was he going hard the entire way, or was he lollygagging it? Because I think he was lollygagging it there for at least a couple of steps. And look, I made the point. It's 2 outs. You're running on contact in that situation in the 7th inning. Kyle Schwarber puts it in the corner. Ronald Acuna goes in there to field it. Did I say Acuna? Yeah, Acuna goes in there to field it. He fires in, and they fired a second. What? Oh, he fires a second. Okay, so then Nick Castellanos should score easily. Did not score easily. Why didn't he score easily? Why isn't it? I don't understand why this wasn't explained. Why we didn't see a replay, especially when it was referenced by the color analyst, Ben Davis. I don't get it. But I think it was a big thing as to why the Phillies lost this game yesterday. Now, ultimately, I guess it wouldn't have mattered because I know people will just be like, "Well, Soto was going to give up those runs anyway." Yeah, sure, that might have happened. But if you have the opportunity to score more runs, like you did in both the 3rd and the 7th inning, then you score the runs. So that's why I'm more pissed off about Nick Castellanos, because the ultimate thing is, you got to hustle. I don't think he was. But the thing is, we don't have the absolute smoking gun that he wasn't. And my thought is that at some point he let up. Because how else do you look surprised about being waved home? You slow down. I'm calling for an investigation, folks. I'm calling for an investigation. Phillies are back at it tonight. Don't you want to enjoy your Memorial Day weekend? Phillies are back at it tonight. I'll be back with you guys on the post-game show on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. That's what we got going on for this fine evening, folks. That's what we got going on for this fine, fine evening. Good times. Taiwan Walker, by the way, gets the start for the Phillies, so that'll be fun. Before we get to Ky Carlin, let me tell you about the great people at Steven Singer at Steven Singer Jewelers, the other corner of 8th and Walnut, right there on Jewelers Row. For over 40 years, Steven's been in the love business in Philadelphia, helping people get engaged and fall in love. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price, home of the perfect price. Now, what's the perfect price? I'll tell you what the perfect price is. The perfect price is what other jewelers aren't doing. Other jewelers will mark things way up just to mark them down a couple of bucks, make you feel like you won some kind of prize. But at Steven Singer Jewelers, they tell you, don't worry about negotiating or haggling. Don't worry about that pressure. Just know you're going to get taken care of with the perfect price each and every day online and at the other corner of Steven Singer Jewelers. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price online at IHateStevenSinger.com. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Let's jump on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line. Talk to our good friend Ky Carlin from USA Today, Sixers Wire. Right now on the Rothman Orthopedics guest line, our good friend from the USA Today Sixers Wire. You can also catch him just managing like a boss, ladies and gentlemen. Regional NBA Wire editor as well. No big deal. Our friend Ky Carlin joins us. What's going on there, Ky?
What's going on, Mark? Thanks for the intro. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. You do a great job covering the Sixers. Of course, we've had you on the show before. It's great to have you on again. And it's crazy. It's one of these things, like I was thinking, I haven't talked to Ky in a while. And I loved talking to you last year during the season. And then the Eagles season ran forever. And then the Phillies, of course, were picking up and just everything, went on here. But we pick up here at a very interesting time for the Sixers. And I know my audience is probably tired of me saying this, but we've watched in the last couple months, we've watched the Phillies lose the World Series. We've watched the Eagles lose the Super Bowl. And it is still bothering me more that the Sixers got bounced out again in a Game 7 of the second round of the playoffs. And, of course, again, against the Boston Celtics. Where are you as far as, where you think the fan base is? What are you hearing? What are people asking you on social media when it comes to just their overall reaction from that Game 7 loss?
I mean, listen, I know a lot of people are upset, and rightfully so. I think the crazy thing is, though, Mark, everybody was talking about Nikola Jokic failing, in the postseason, and now Jokic is in the NBA Finals. Well, Joel Embiid is bounced in the second round for the 5th time in 6 seasons of his career. It's life is cruel. Life is unfair. So listen, here's my final thoughts on this year's team. First of all, the loss was predictable. I had them losing round 2 literally from October. I thought PJ Tucker was going to make a difference. I do think he did make a difference. I think we all saw it in game 4 of the Celtics series when Tucker was in Joel's ear saying, "Hey man, like get going. We need you." And Sixers ended up winning that game in overtime. So I feel like he did make a difference, Mark. The thing is though, in game 7, you need your stars to step up. And how many times have we seen James Harden kind of come up short in a game 7? Now, not just with Philadelphia, but with the Houston Rockets as well. How many times have we seen James come up short in these situations? The same goes for Joel. Listen, if it wasn't for Ben Simmons passing up to Matisse Thybulle in game 7 against Atlanta, we would all be talking about Joel having 8 turnovers in that game 7 against Atlanta. Joel kind of escaped that blame because what Ben did was absolutely insane.
Yeah, we'd be talking about that, and we'd be talking about Doc Rivers' lack of adjustments more, and we'd barely be talking about Ben Simmons.
Yeah, right. But Ben Simmons passing up that dunk absolved a lot of people of blame. It really did.
Sure.
And then you look at this game 7 against Boston. Mark and Joel shoots 5 for 18. So it's just like these guys continue to kind of come up short. And I know it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way that he was kind of laughing and joking around with Jason Tatum after the game. I know that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. So they're kind of in a bad spot right now.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you there. So that was then, and it's still sticking with me now, unfortunately. But I know, Ky, that a lot of people are going to be busy over this weekend, and I want to kind of fast forward to Tuesday. People are going to be back at work. People are going to be back in the office. They're going to be on their Zoom calls, of course, and the coaching search is heating up around the NBA, and it looks like the Phoenix Suns are looking at Nick Nurse a lot closer, looking at Doc Rivers, of course, which is not happening here, as we all know. There's a bunch of names that are floating out there. Mike Budenholzer right now. Do you think the Sixers do you think they'll have a coach by Tuesday? They interview Vogel, obviously. What do you think the future, the near future, holds for us come Tuesday when it comes to the coaching search around the NBA?
Now, see, I don't think anything changes just yet by Tuesday. I really I think, in my opinion, this isn't like sourced or anything. In my opinion, I think this all kind of comes down to whatever read they get on James Harden. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they want to situate the James stuff first, which obviously puts him in a bad spot because free agency obviously doesn't start till June 30th. But I feel like whatever coach that they hire will kind of depend on him, which is why I wouldn't count out Mike D'Antoni. And again, this is just an opinion, but it's why I wouldn't count out Mike D'Antoni. It's why I think if they hire D'Antoni, then James will be like, oh yeah, I'm staying here. Yeah, I got Daryl here. I got PJ here. I know I got business ventures in Houston. I got my mom in Houston. You know what? Come to Philly. We'll figure this thing out. I do feel like if Mike D'Antoni gets hired, I feel like that is the tell-all that James will stay. In my opinion, though, Mark, Nick Nurse should be the guy. Like, Nurse should be the guy they hire. Like, I think he's a brilliant tactician. He thinks outside the box. And, his teams in Toronto were like the top defensive teams in the league or near the top like every year. So I would go with Nurse for sure.
I'm with you there as far as Nurse goes, and let's focus on that for a second here. Do you think Nurse would focus on the 76ers?
What do you mean?
Would he want this job? Would Harden or no Harden, Joel Embiid at the status that he's at right now, would Nurse want to be in Philadelphia?
I think he would. I mean, listen, even if James leaves, Mark, you still have Joel Embiid under contract. They'll probably extend Tyrese Maxey. He's eligible for an extension this summer. You'll only have one more year of Tobias Harris, and then his money kind of clears off, and then you can kind of reload and things like that. And then you've also got a proven veteran in PJ Tucker. So I do feel like even if Harden does leave, the Sixers are still an attractable destination just because they have so much talent, starting with the MVP of the league. So, I look at the Sixers job, and if I was a coach, James Harden or no James Harden, I'm looking at Philadelphia, and I'm like, that's an attractable destination.
If you're betting on a coach to wind up in Philadelphia, do you think it is Nick Nurse, or do you think somebody else? You mentioned Mike D'Antoni as well, but is there anyone else you think is the favorite to land the job here in Philly?
I really don't think so. Like, for me, it kind of comes down to Nurse. And I know And I'll be honest with you, I know a lot of people want Monty Williams, but for me, I think Monty Williams takes a year off. Like, and like, there's just some kind of things I've been seeing floating around Twitter that maybe Monty Williams is just going to take a year off. I mean, Phoenix this year has been, it's been a crazy situation with the Robert Sarver stuff, the big Kevin Durant trade, all the injuries up and down the roster. And so, you know, that was probably a year where for Monty, where it was just like, I'm sure he would still love to be coaching the Suns, but I'm sure being fired wasn't the worst thing in the world for him, because maybe he'd like to take a year off, just breathe a little bit. So maybe Monty Williams isn't a guy who's looking to get into coaching right away. Mike Budenholzer as well. I don't think Budenholzer is going to get into coaching as well right off the bat. I think he's another guy who's going to take a year off. So for me, it comes down to Nick Nurse, Mike D'Antoni, Frank Vogel, obviously, and I wouldn't count out Sam Cassell.
Okay, now, how much of Doc Rivers is in Sam Cassell in terms of what kind of coach you think Sam Cassell would be if he were to get the job?
I'm not sure. Like, that's the big question, right? Because he was Doc's assistant for 9 years, the 6 with the Los Angeles Clippers and the 3 here in Philadelphia. So Sam Cassell has been pretty much an extension of Rivers for the past decade, really. So it'll be interesting to if the Sixers factor that into things. I do know Sam has worked so closely with Tyrese Maxey, so closely with James Harden, and I know he's very likable or very well liked among that roster. So I feel like Cassell will be a guy who the Sixers hire him. You know, that could maybe factor into the James situation as well. So yeah, like there's a lot going on there.
So the D'Antoni thing, let's focus on this for a second. Mike D'Antoni obviously was in Houston with James Harden. They know each other well. They weren't able to get to the promised land, as everybody knows. So why would it work here in Philadelphia? And if you're Joel Embiid, when do you start looking around and going, okay, wait, when did this become the Houston Rockets retirement center? Like, what the hell's going on here? So why would Joel Embiid also be for that? So 2 questions. One, would it work? And why would JoJo go for it?
For me, I don't think it would work. Okay. Like that. Like, that's the thing. And,
I agree. It doesn't work. Yeah.
And, you know, I think it was Alan Hahn, ESPN's Alan Hahn. He was on First Take, and I think they were talking about the Harden Embiid dynamic and the possible new head coach and things like that. And even Alan Hahn was like, who are the Sixers committing to? Are they committed to Joel Embiid, or are they committed to James Harden? Because it's beginning to look like it's James Harden. And it makes a lot of sense. They brought in like 3 or 4 former Rockets in the offseason. They were Tucker, Montrezl Harrell, Daniel House, even DeAnthony Melton, who obviously didn't play for the Rockets, but he was drafted by the Rockets, and Daryl Morey. All of them have some type of connection to Morey and the Rockets. And it's kind of just like, Daryl, if it didn't work in Houston, why are you bringing it to Philadelphia? So in my opinion, I don't think it's going to work. But Daryl has also done a really good job of putting the right pieces around Joe. I think that's something that we do have to give him credit for, because when he took over the job in 2020, moving out Horford, Josh Richardson, bringing in shooters, Danny Green, Seth Curry, immediately. The next year, the Ben Simmons saga moves that and gets a future Hall of Famer in James Harden. Then this past offseason, he brings in toughness. It's just obviously it has the weird Rocket connection, though. So that's the big question. And would Joel go for it? I think he would, just because D'Antoni was an assistant under Brett Brown in, I think, 2015-16. That was Joel's technically second year in the league. I put that in quotations because that was the second year he was hurt from the injuries. So, but I knew Joel and D'Antoni actually had a little bit of some type of like positive relationship when MDA was here. So I think Joel would go for it. I just personally don't think it would work, because this is essentially the same type of core. Well, not exactly. I mean, Joel's obviously better than Clint Capella, but this is kind of like the same idea of you tried to do in Houston and it didn't work. You came up short. Now these guys are 5 years older, 4 or 5 years older. And in Philadelphia, I'm not sure. I don't think it'll work.
I'm with you 100%. I don't like it. That's why I want to do something different. Even Frank Vogel ahead of Mike D'Antoni, as far as I'm concerned there. So this is an interesting thing, because you look at the free agent class, and there's no like huge sexy name that's out there right now that could come in here and either replace James Harden and make this team closer to a championship. Really nobody that you can have a lot of confidence in. So are we staring into the abyss? Like, I think we are. I think we're staring into this abyss of, we're looking at best another second round exit next year, and then hopefully you can rebuild after that. What do you think the what do you just think right now as far as the immediate future goes for the 76ers in terms of what type of team they'll be? Is it going to be the Maxey and Embiid show and then Tobias Harris as well? Or do you see somebody else coming here and in here and helping out on the court as well?
Here's the thing, though. I feel like it has to be the Maxey and Joel show and then a little bit of Tobias or whatever he gives you. But the big thing is, though, you just mentioned it, this team's ceiling is kind of the second round. Like, this is it. Like, they're not – I think they can win. I think they can because we were saying the same things about the Denver Nuggets the past 3-4 years, and now the Nuggets are in the NBA Finals. So and they took out some really good players: Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, even round one, Karl Towns, Anthony Edwards, all-stars, superstars, combination of this league. So they took out some really good players. The thing with Philadelphia is Joel is 29, but with all the injuries he sustained, you know, one bad fall and it could be a wrap, which is unfortunate because like he's such a great dude and he's a great talent, obviously. But when you look at the Sixers right now, it's just kind of like you're kind of very close to hitting that reset button. You really are. You're very close to it, especially if James leaves in this offseason, because if he does, you're rocking with Joel, Tyrese, Tobias is over here. You're going to have a 38-year-old PJ Tucker who will turn 39 in the playoffs. And it's like, is that beating the Milwaukee Bucks? And speaking of the Bucks, I know they just lost round one to the Miami Heat. They're probably going to come back with a vengeance next year and probably be like, yo, this year was just a fluke. You can't forget about us. And then is that going to beat the Boston Celtics? Is that going to beat the Miami Heat even? So, or even the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know they just flamed out round one, but they're young. They're only going to get better. So I look at the Sixers, man, and they are kind of in a really, really bad spot.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, I'm a guy who grew up here and rooted for this team. Obviously, still do. But when it comes to Embiid, you mentioned it. He's going to be 30 years old. It's not a young 30 years old by any means, by any stretch of the imagination, because of all the injuries that he has sustained. So when you talk about a reset button, how close are you, even in this offseason, by potentially just blowing it all up and starting another version of the process again?
For me, it kind of depends on Harden. Because look, if you bring Harden back, like if he does decide to come back, you still have a really, really good team. They'll still win 52 to 55 games. And then at that point, you got to hope and pray that Joel actually has a healthy playoff run. Because every year, unfortunately, the guy just has some type of injury. So, but if you have a healthy Joel for a playoff run, then who knows the possibilities of what could happen? We've never seen it. So I feel like that is obviously a big factor in when you press that reset button. Because if James Harden comes back, Mark, they're still a really, really good team. And then at that point, you got to figure out the bench because George Niang's a free agent, Jalen McDaniels is a free agent, Shake Milton's a free agent, Paul Reed's a free agent. So you got to kind of figure out how you're going to fortify your bench unit a little bit, and then that's going to be something Daryl's going to have to kind of figure out. But I mean, if James comes back, Mark, you still have a chance. It's just about can Joel stay healthy and can James and Joe show up in the big moments. I
don't think I asked you point blank. Do you think James Harden is back next year?
No.
Okay.
I just don't think he is. But,
okay. All right.
But just reading the tea leaves, Mark, we have been hearing this Harden to Houston stuff since Christmas. Mm-hmm. And on that Christmas day after that game in New York, I asked James, what about these reports? Literally after that game. He brushed it off.
I don't know where those reports came from, Ky.
Yep.
You mean like, yeah, Woj has no credibility, of course. But right.
So exactly. It wasn't exactly like a huge deny. You know what I mean? And it wasn't just Christmas Day either. It was just constantly continuing to pop up throughout the season. Even in round one against Brooklyn, a report came out that he still wants to go to Houston. So we have been hearing these, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there has been smoke bellowing since Christmas.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, finish that thought. Sorry.
I was just going to say it looks like, he's heading back to Houston. Just everything kind of says it. He will be heading back.
So from the people I've talked to, it sounds like you and I are closest to being on the same page, which is you're not necessarily, because I don't think Harden's back either. You're not necessarily shoving Joel Embiid out the door. You're not calling around the league right now to be like, I'm unloading him. What are you going to give me? It's not like that, but You're a little bit closer to fielding as many of those calls as possible when it comes to Joel Embiid and the potential of blowing it up.
Yeah, you have to at least consider it. I wouldn't yet. I really wouldn't, because Joel is the MVP of the league. You don't just unload a guy like that unless you get, I can't believe I'm about to say this, a Rudy Gobert type haul.
Right.
Which I can't believe. I still can't believe the Jazz gave Gobert that much money. I still
4 first rounders. Good Lord.
Still can't believe that. But I still can't believe the Jazz got that type of haul. And anyway, like unless you're going to get that type of haul for Joel, I wouldn't do it. I mean, you continue to kind of rock with Joel and Tyrese. I mean, just the D'Antoni stuff. And again, that's not like a source thing. It's just an opinion. I do believe that Daryl will go after, try and bring Mike here. I really do believe that, because if you remember, Mark, when the Sixers traded for Harden, Mark Stein actually put out a report that the Sixers were actually thinking about maybe firing Doc and replacing him with D'Antoni that season.
Oh yeah.
So, and I mean, you know, like Mark Stein is as plugged in as anybody else in the league. So
that is interesting, man. So let's end on something that might be optimistic here. All right, and let's do an impression of somebody who's really optimistic. You and I here, okay?
All right.
So we watch the Nuggets with this great run that they're on in the finals and all that jazz. Okay, no pun intended. But you look at it like this: can Tyrese Maxey be the Jamal Murray to Embiid as Jamal Murray is to Nikola Jokic?
Again, I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, but here's the thing. Here's the optimistic part of it. Here's what I will say.
Okay.
I've talked a lot about Jalen Hurts, right? As everyone has pretty much, in terms of Jalen Hurts making these huge steps in progression. I've never seen anybody go from the way he was this one year to then, boom, the next year he was MVP caliber type of guy.
Yeah.
The way that Tyrese Maxey, and granted he had more of a ceiling, he had a higher ceiling because Simmons was gone. But from year 1 to year 2, it was a huge jump. And then year 2, year 3, as far as being a starter in this lineup and being a guy that you can start depending on in this lineup for the Sixers on this roster, he has taken some pretty big steps forward. So if Harden's not here, and it is Tyrese Maxey getting more minutes and getting more opportunities, and it is more of a, I don't know what you would call it, there's two kings, so to speak, being able to score the basketball, I'm curious to see whether or not he can take another big leap forward as he did when Ben Simmons moved on, or the Sixers moved on from Ben Simmons.
So here's the counterpoint to that.
Ah, damn it.
As terrific as Maxey, I agree with you. Maxey continues to just move forward. He's been one impressive young kid.
I was just hoping you'd tell me that's a brilliant point and just be excited with me. But okay.
No. Like, listen, I always got to have a counter.
No, you're right. Go ahead.
Speaking of counters, I don't think he has a counter move. So on the offensive end, he's got one move. It's either that straight line drive to the basket or that step. Okay, two moves. Or that straight line drive to the basket or that step back three. That's all he's got.
Okay.
So when you face a team like the Celtics, who have legitimate defenders, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Robert Williams at the rim, and if you're not able to get that initial shot off, where's your counter move? Where is it?
You want to see a little fadeaway? You want to see a little fadeaway, Tyrese Maxey?
Something, because Jamal Murray's got a counter. Jamal Murray's got plenty of counters. So and that's what kind of has helped him become that perimeter scorer that the Nuggets have needed. Then next to Joker, and then they got shooters: Michael Porter Jr., Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon. They've all kind of morphed into really good players there. So I just don't think Maxey has that counter move yet. But then again, you just mentioned he always takes those leaps. Let's see what he's got next year.
All right, maybe that'll be the hint that Sam Cassell will get the next head coaching gig. Him and Maxey will be in the gym all off season, working on some fadeaway, some other kind of step back, some other kind of crossover, whatever it might be. Maybe that'll be the deal.
They'll move something.
Ky, you do wonderful work, of course, for Sixers Wire USA Today, and keep those people hustling around the region when it comes to the NBA Wire as an editor there also, my friend. Ky, great catching up with you. I hope you get to enjoy a nice offseason that won't be too action-packed with too much news, but, enough to keep you busy, of course.
Oh, of course. We like to find a balance there. I like that.
Ky Carlin joining us from Sixers Wire of USA Today. Ky, thanks, man.
Hey, appreciate you, Mark. Thank you.
Here's the thing. I like having guests on the show because I want people that don't often agree with me or are not in the same way of thinking. You guys get me for the majority of the show, and then, it's good to hear somebody else's opinion for a second. He's very close to how I'm thinking. as I phrased it, I'm not pushing Joel Embiid out the door. I'm not making phone calls trying to trade him. But if I get the right call, then I would have to at least consider it. I would love to know that the Sixers very soon, in the next year or two, are going to be competing for a championship. I'd love to know that. There's simply no way of knowing that. However, when James Harden is here, you at least know that the team's all in and they're trying to win right now. Built to win right now. If you don't bring back James Harden, then you're at least investing in the idea that Maxey and that Maxey can be the Jamal Murray to Joel Embiid. That's what you're investing in, that idea. Can he progress to that? And yes, those are all legitimate things that Ky Carlin talked about when it comes to Maxey developing those other moves. But here's the deal. It's not just looking at statistics, for instance, and saying, oh, Tyrese Maxey has gotten better at points per game. He's gotten better at shooting threes. He's gotten better at shooting threes because he learned a move to shoot better threes. That step-back jumper that he watched up close and personal with James Harden and went, no, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. And he did it. And he's been doing it to perfection. Fantastic. So it's not just about learning stats and watching the stats build and the numbers get bigger. It's also about watching his game mature and him learning new tricks. So if the goal this offseason is for Tyrese Maxey to become a more versatile scorer, I got a lot of confidence that Tyrese Maxey will go out there and become a more versatile scorer. He'll learn not just to shoot from three. He'll learn not just the step back three. He'll not just learn how to slash to the rim better, but he'll learn that pull-up jumper and learn to hit that with more consistency. He'll learn to shoot a fadeaway. He'll learn. He's coachable, and he loves the game. And although I think of them as very different people, when it comes to how they attack their craft, I think Tyrese Maxey and Jalen Hurts attack their craft with a very similar mindset, which is, number one, first and foremost, and this shouldn't be breaking news of any professional athlete, but I think Tyrese Maxey loves the game. I think he truly loves the game of basketball. And that's step one, because if you don't truly love it and you just can't wait to get away from it, then guess what? That's a bad thing. Then you're not going to be fully dedicated to your craft. And the fact that every single year it seems like we hear stories about Tyrese Maxey. In the past, it was Doc Rivers. He texts Doc Rivers day after the season, Doc, what do I got to do to work out? What do I got to do? And Doc said, go on vacation, man. Go on vacation. Take a break. Tyrese Maxey, all right, I guess, fine. I'll take a break. I'll take a vacation. Fine. Yeah, coach. And then he's back in the gym, and you see pictures of him with Joel Embiid and James Harden trying to get better at his craft because he loves the game. And then on top of that, loving the game thing, he's got to have talent, which he does. I mean, that's the obvious. But on top of that, he's got to work his ass off. It's funny, whenever you talk to coaches of younger players, whether that be G League, whether that be minor league, whether that be college, with guys that are going to go to the next level. And they know they have someone on their team that's going to go to that next level. Or they have someone that is going to be fringe. It might be, fourth, fifth round pick, whatever, in the NFL. It might be one player on a college hockey team that has a chance to get drafted. Talk to those coaches, and all those coaches talk about hard work. About how, everyone at this level has a great amount of talent. I mean, look at how they made college level. They made it at least being paid at the minor league level and baseball, whatever it might be. Look how close these guys are. Look how close these guys come from being like a fifth round draft pick, undrafted free agent signing. They have to put in the work. And that's not to say that anyone that gets drafted in the seventh round or undrafted is lazy or anything like that. It just means that the talent they have to work on might not be as much of might not give them enough leeway with the amount of work they got to put in. But if you want to get to that next level and be the best version of yourself, you got to work. Sometimes players just stop working. Sometimes they get content. I don't think Tyrese Maxey is a player to get content. So if you are going to be looking at the Sixers with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey taking that next step together, then I look forward to seeing just how much better, again, Tyrese Maxey can be. Because a lot of people made a big deal about him going from his rookie season to his sophomore season. Oh, look at the big jump. Look how much he improved. Well, we didn't really get to see how much he improved from last year to this year. I saw that he played more. So maybe he was this good last year. We just didn't get to see it as much. But he did. Took a big step forward. And then you watch him over the last 2 seasons. And you watch how he has improved because we've seen him almost as much. Well, now, how much can he improve where he is part of the focal point of this offense? And yeah, 20 points per game is great. But being the guy next to the guy, instead of being the guy that's next to the 2 other guys, is a big difference. And if this is going to be the now, instead of Harden and Embiid show, this is going to be the Embiid and Maxey show, then I want to see it. Because I don't want to see it here with Harden anymore. I've made that point known. I don't want James Harden back. Not on a deal, not on anything. I don't want him back. So if you're getting closer to blowing it up and you're getting closer to moving on from James Harden, I can understand in a roundabout way, to get back to the point here, I can understand why the Sixers would be at least taking phone calls. But I want to see. My vote is Embiid and Maxey. Let's see what they do as the NBA Jam combo of this team, okay? I can see why the allure is there for some people to blow it up. Like, oh, you have this asset in Joel Embiid. You get the most you could for him. Yeah, that's attractive. That's sexy. I'd like to see it to an extent. But we just went through this BS. Rebuilding all over again, that sucks. I really feel like going through what we went through with the process years, I feel like we have to drive this thing into the ground. We have to drive it into the absolute ground. And I don't think that's happening this offseason. I don't think moving on from it is going to happen this offseason. I think the Sixers are going to come back with the tandem of Maxey and Embiid, and they're going to see what they can do in free agency to get anybody else that can help them, whether that be clutch scorers, clutch shooters, I should say, whether that be guys that actually are part of 3-and-D, big time, whatever it might be. That's what I think they're going to end up investing into the offseason. Let me tell you right now about Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com, the leader in below-the-waist grooming at manscaped.com. Join 4 million men at manscaped.com who trust Manscaped and their skin-safe technology that helps them manscape with confidence and comfort. So go to manscaped.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. The leader in below-the-waist grooming. How about Freestone Farm CBD? Freestone Farm CBD. You like CBD? You use CBD? Try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. They'll grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with no organic inputs and IPM. Oh, baby. So it's fantastic. You'll love their tropical tasting Bayox. It clocks in at a chart-topping 24.1%. And Super CBD, which is half Hindu, Kush, and 21%. Genetics of these guys are off the charts. So try Freestone Farm CBD at FreestoneFarmCBD.com. Use promo code Farzy for 20% off. How about PHL Sports Station, Philadelphia Sports Station, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs? That's PHLSportsStation.com. Let's get into the chat check, see how you beautiful people are doing on this fine morning. Going to start it over on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Sean Gillespie, hello. Barbara, Babs, my post-game friend. How you doing, darling? And it's the, Babs drops in a good morning, sweetie. Good morning. Morning, Babs. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me on both the postgame show and this morning. Let's go over to the Farzy Show YouTube channel. Sean Gillespie, you double dipping. No, take 2. You double dipping SOB. Sean Gillespie. One chat and the other. You move around. And Sean, I'm not going to lie. I did see this tweet during the show. This might be my favorite, or tweet. This comment, this might be the best comment ever. History. Just found out T-Rexes had the best vision of all land-based dinosaurs. ... Nola sucks. Might be the best comment we've ever gotten. So Sean also said, good morning. Mike Fuji, what's on? Good Mark and good peeps. Happy Friday, Memorial Day weekend. Sean Gillespie, what's going on? Says, good morning to Fuji and everybody. April! What's up, April? Everyone's saying hello. April, what a letdown. I really thought they were going to find a way to win it. April, so did I. Are you more pissed at Nola or are you more pissed at Nick Castellanos? Because I need to form a committee to investigate what the hell was going on with Nick Castellanos rounding third base. I got to know it. I think he was lollygagging it. I know Nick Castellanos isn't a speedster. I even put this out on social media last night. I know he's not a speedster, but that ball went into the corner with 2 outs. And the throw went to second base. He either lollygagged, took a nap at third, had a little chat with Dusty Wathan, or he's the slowest man alive. Sean Gillespie, April. Sean Kilrain. What's up, Sean Kilrain? Fuji, is Nola worth a long-term deal? Not for the Phillies. Not right now. Sean Kilrain, are we going to see a consistent Nola? Soto had strikes that weren't called. Yeah. You're right. He was depending on that, especially to the right-handed hitters, he was depending on that slider being called for a strike. And it wasn't called for a strike. Yes, he was getting squeezed. I know I don't like blaming the umpires a lot, but you're right. He was squeezed is a way to put it, I guess. But he's had more struggles than just this game recently. So I can't just blame the umps there. But I understand what you're saying, and it's a good point, Sean. I didn't bring it up, but it's a good point worth noting. Thank you for doing that. Castellanos has to commit to that run to home plate. Don't let up like a deer in headlights. My daughter knows not to do that, and she plays softball. That reminds me, somebody did tweet me last night, and I understood this. The person said, Castellanos slid at home like my brother in Little League who always hated baseball. And I got like, if you can't picture that, if you didn't know that kid growing up, I don't know what to tell you, but it painted the perfect picture. Like, now I have to get dirty. Slide. Oh, I'm out. Shucks. You know, it was like that kind of attitude. We all knew that kid. April, I know he was confused that he got told to go, but you got to put the effort in. Also, one of the first things you learn from sliding is to keep your other leg down to get to the bag. April, can you coach this team? Because they're not learning the fundamentals. I know a lot of people look at the movie Angels in the Outfield. Stay with me here. Your favorite team could need angels in the outfield, whatever. But one thing that I always think about whenever fundamentals gets brought up, there's a scene in that movie where Danny Glover comes in as the manager and he goes, tomorrow we go back to fundamentals. And it sticks out of my head because that never happens in Major League. No one ever comes in and we go back to fundamentals. And then somebody comes in and he's like, fundamentals in the middle of the season. And whenever somebody brings up fundamentals, that's what I always think of. Just so you know where my idiot Family Guy brain goes, it cuts away to that. Mihai, what's up, Mihai Sanchez? Phillies need at least a 6-4 road trip. Not a fan of Gregory Soto. Oh, you just call him Greg Soto. Too wild. And I would have kept Veerling, though Cody Clemens has been solid. I love Cody Clemens. Have a great weekend and go Phils. There you go, Mihai Sanchez. Back at you. I love Cody Clemens. Cody Clemens has got like a 367 on base percentage or something crazy as a starter. I love me some Cody Clemens. More Cody Clemens, please. And how about Cody Clemens is now the walking, talking reminder of how freaking old I am. Because even though he's not like crazy younger than me, I do remember Roger Clemens having kids. Ugh. And I remember my buddy Ryan Anderson growing up was a huge Roger Clemens fan. And we would play. This was pretty much the only time I ever played Nintendo because I was a Sega Genesis household. Thank you. I was a Sega Master System. I was a Sega Genesis. Do we own Sega Saturn? We owned Sega Saturn. Sega CD was the precursor, pre-runner, whatever. Sega CD to Sega Saturn. We had Sega Saturn. Then we had Dreamcast. Okay, so I was a Sega kid through and through. But again, wow, big time Family Guy brain today with the cutaways. But Ryan Anderson and I played Roger Clemens baseball. And he was a big Roger Clemens fan. And I remember him telling me, he named all his kids with the first initial K because of strikeouts. That's how much he loves strikeouts. He named his kids all the first letter K. So that's how I remember Cody Clemens is always spelled with a K, not a C. One other thing about Roger Clemens baseball for Nintendo was they didn't have the naming rights So I remember like the Ripken brothers were the Nipkin brothers. Billy Ripken and Cal Ripken. That's the first time Billy's ever been referenced first. And then the Bash brothers in Oakland weren't Canseco and McGuire. They were J Bash and M Bash. That's what I remember. Roger Clemens baseball for Nintendo was a solid game. Now I look back on it. That was a pretty solid game. Why did I get into that? Oh, Cody Clemens. Thank you, Mihai. God. Maybe it's because it's a holiday weekend. My brain's just all over the place today, folks. Hope you're enjoying it. A, let the Houston Rockets give James Harden his legacy contract. A, I'm with you. Damn straight, consider an Embiid trade. No confidence in him during the postseason. Sean Gillespie. A says Harden and Embiid are similar players in that both are ISO players. True. Great regular season players but come up small in the playoffs. True. Sean Kilrain, Embiid is a porcelain doll. True. Very true. Jumping back to the Jacob Sports channel here. Babs is saying Rob Thompson is not a major league manager, and Cody Clemens is a better pitcher than Nola. From the top rope, Babs. Thanks everybody in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush brought to by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Celtics 110-97 Game 5 win over the Miami Heat. They force a Game 6. Could Boston do it? Jimmy Butler was held to 14 points last night on 5 of 10 shooting, 0 for 2 from beyond the arc. Just a weird game last night. Also, 4 members of the Celtics finished with 20 or more points, with Tatum, Smart, White, and Brown as well. Al Horford only started out to finish in double figures in scoring. Come on, Al. What the hell? He was 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. Damn, son. Wow, he was 6 for 8. That's pretty good. Derek White, 6 for 8 from beyond the arc last night for the Celtics. So they force a Game 6. Celtics aren't done yet. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hey, guys, I hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day. And to everyone who has served, thank you. And to anyone who has lost a family member overseas, thank you. Anyone who's made a sacrifice for someone overseas, someone in our military, thank you. Let's not forget that over the weekend. I always like to take some time and think about that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. The people on the podcast, thank you so much. For the people on Jacob Media YouTube channel, thank you. For the people on the Farzy Show YouTube channel, thank you. Jim Hyden produced the program, did a wonderful job. As per usual, my name is Mark Farzetta. I'll be back with you guys tonight. Jacob Media Phillies post-game show, Rant and Raven. We'll get into all that and more, of course, tonight. And I'll be back with you guys on Tuesday. No show Monday. We're going to take the day and enjoy. Jim, you got that? Off Monday. Enjoy yourself. Unless something breaks. No, I'm just kidding. Off Monday. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. And again, thank you to all who served and who have earned Memorial Day. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody. See ya.